Most people end their night by turning off the lights and going to sleep. I spend mine digging through things that were never meant to be found. Cold cases, unsolved disappearances, strange events with no explanations, files that were buried, evidence that doesn't quite fit. Everything I've uncovered is right here. Let's take a look at what I've been researching. Oh yeah, welcome to Creepy Chronicles. During the height of the space race, when the United States and the Soviet Union were battling for supremacy beyond Earth's atmosphere, a chilling rumor began to circulate, whispers of lost Soviet astronauts, known today as the Phantom Cosmonauts. According to these stories, the Soviet Union's early space program was far more dangerous and secretive than the world ever knew. Before Yuri Gagarin became the first man officially recognized to orbit the Earth in 1961, there were said to be others, men and women who launched into space but never returned. The rumors began in the late 1950s when two Italian amateur radio operators, the Giudica Cordiglia brothers, claimed to have intercepted strange transmissions coming from space. They said they recorded what sounded like breathing, frantic heartbeats, and even the faint voice of a woman gasping for air, pleading for help as her spacecraft drifted into darkness. The brothers released multiple tapes, each allegedly capturing the final moments of secret Soviet cosmonauts whose missions went horribly wrong. One of the most haunting recordings featured a female voice, speaking in Russian, saying, "I feel hot. I can see flame. Am I going to crash?" Then, silence. The Soviet government, of course, denied everything. They dismissed the recordings as hoaxes, insisting that all of their cosmonauts were accounted for. Yet, over the years, inconsistencies in official reports kept surfacing. Launch schedules that didn't match up, space capsules that were built but never documented, and names of test pilots who appeared in early reports only to vanish from the record books. Some believe these phantom cosmonauts were victims of failed missions, quietly erased from history to protect the image of Soviet success. Others suggest the recordings were elaborate fabrications meant to discredit the USSR, but even decades later, questions remain. Why did the Soviets keep so many early space missions secret? Why were some capsule wrecks discovered in remote areas without any public acknowledgement? And what about that faint, terrified voice echoing from beyond Earth's edge? Was it real, or just the sound of Cold War paranoia? No proof has ever surfaced, no bodies, no wreckage, no flight logs. Just a handful of haunting tapes, a trail of redacted documents, and a mystery that continues to drift, weightless and unanswered, in the silence of space. It began as an ordinary February night in 1978 in the quiet towns of Northern California. 5 friends. Bill Sterling, 29, Jack Hewitt, 24, Ted Wire, 32, Jack Madruga, 30, and Gary Mathias, 25. All young men with mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions piled into Madruga's turquoise and white 1950 Mercury Montego to attend a college basketball game in Chico. The 5 were inseparable. They were part of a local program for adults with disabilities and often spent weekends together, playing basketball on their team, the Gateway Gators, or hanging out at each other's homes. They were kind, funny, and full of life. After the game, they stopped by a convenience store to grab snacks, Hostess pies, soda, and milk, and then vanished into the night. None of them would ever be seen alive again. Days later, when the men failed to return home, families called the police. A search began. The first clue came in the form of that Mercury Montego, found abandoned on a Schurz remote mountain road 70 miles off their intended route. The location was completely out of the way. Upwinding, snow-covered trails leading into the Plumas National Forest. The car was in good condition. The keys were missing, but it wasn't stuck. The tires hadn't spun out, meaning the driver had stopped intentionally. Inside were the snack wrappers and programs from the game. It looked as though they had simply stepped out and walked into the forest. For months, there was no sign of them. The snow made search efforts nearly impossible. Then, as the thaw came that June, a group of motorcyclists made a horrific discovery. In a remote mountain cabin, 19 miles from where the car had been found, lay the emaciated body of Ted Wire. He had starved to death slowly over the course of weeks. His beard growth and weight loss suggested he'd survived up to 13 weeks after the group vanished. The cabin had a fireplace, plenty of food, and matches. Yet none of it had been used. Wire had neatly folded his clothing, wrapped himself in sheets, and lain down on a bed to die. Nearby were the remains of Sterling and Madruga, found along the road as if they'd tried to return for help. Hewitt's body was discovered a short distance away. Only Gary Mathias, the fifth man, was never found. Mathias's shoes were in the cabin, suggesting he had been there, but where he went afterward remains a mystery. His body has never been located. The case has baffled investigators for decades. Why would 5 men, unfamiliar with the mountains, drive up a dangerous, snowy road in the middle of the night? Why didn't they use the food or heat in the cabin? And what happened to Gary Mathias? Some theories suggest paranoia or delusion, that one of them, perhaps Mathias, who had schizophrenia, led the others astray. Others believe they were chased, possibly by someone or something. There are whispers of a mystery truck that followed them that night, a sighting reported by a witness, but that lead, like so many others, went nowhere. To this day, the story of the Yuba County Five remains one of the most disturbing and perplexing mysteries in American history. Often compared to Russia's Dyatlov Pass incident, 5 friends left a basketball game full of joy and anticipation. 4 were found frozen in the woods, and 1 was never seen again. What really happened on that mountain, no one knows, and maybe no one ever will. At the base of Japan's towering Mount Fuji lies one of the most eerily quiet places on Earth, Aokigahara Forest, a dense expanse of trees that stretches for miles. To most, it's known simply as the Suicide Forest. It's a place of beauty and dread in equal measure. A sea of green moss, twisting roots, and gnarled trees so thick that even daylight struggles to penetrate. But behind its stillness lies a tragic and deeply unsettling mystery that continues to haunt both locals and visitors alike. A forest with a dark reputation. Aokigahara's connection to death stretches back centuries. Ancient Japanese folklore describes the forest as a place of yurei, restless spirits who linger between the worlds of the living and the dead. In medieval times, it was rumored that families, burdened by famine, would leave the elderly or sick to perish among the trees, an act known as ubasut. But the forest's modern reputation as a place of suicide began in the 20th century, particularly after the 1960s. 2 works of fiction, Seicho Matsumoto's novel Kuroi Jukai, Black Sea of Trees, and Wataru Tsurumi's The Complete Manual of Suicide, described Aokigahara as a serene place to die. And tragically, real people began following that suggestion. Each year, dozens of people are found within its depths, though authorities have stopped releasing official numbers to discourage copycat incidents. The atmosphere within visitors to Aokigahara describe an unnatural silence. The thick canopy of trees muffles sound, even the wind. Compasses often fail, disrupted by the forest's volcanic, iron-rich soil. Signs line the main paths, written in Japanese, pleading with visitors, "Your life is a precious gift. Think of your family," but venture deeper, and you begin to see the remnants left behind, abandoned tents, discarded shoes, letters, and sometimes even colored tape or string marking a path back to the entrance, a path some never returned to follow. Tour guides and forest workers have reported finding items that hint at last moments. Wallets carefully laid open, photographs pinned to trees, and even food offerings placed as if for someone else. The haunting energy of Aokigahara. Those who have entered describe a heavy feeling, like the air itself presses down on you. Many believe that the forest absorbs the energy of those who die within it, giving it a presence that's impossible to ignore. There are countless stories of apparitions, figures glimpsed between trees, whispers with no source, the faint crunch of footsteps when no one else is there. Paranormal investigators often speak of seeing shadows that move against the light, or feeling as though they're being watched from the moment they enter. And yet, despite the fear and tragedy surrounding it, Aokigahara also has a strange, heartbreaking serenity, a place where lost souls seem to linger, trapped between peace and pain, modern efforts and ongoing mystery. Local authorities and volunteers regularly patrol the area, hoping to save those who wander in. Despite increased awareness and mental health efforts, the forest's dark magnetism remains. No one truly knows why Aokigahara continues to draw so many. Some say it's the solitude, others say it's something spiritual, something calling from within the trees. Whatever the reason, the forest remains one of Earth's most tragic, unsolved mysteries. Not of crime, but of human despair, and the haunting silence it leaves behind. It was the morning of January 15th, 1947, when a mother pushing her baby stroller down South Norton Avenue in Los Angeles caught sight of something in the grass. At first, she thought it was a discarded mannequin, pale, clean, and perfectly posed. But as she drew closer, the horrifying truth became clear. It wasn't a mannequin at all. It was the body of a young woman, cut in half at the waist, her skin drained of blood, and her face mutilated into a grotesque, almost deliberate smile. The victim was soon identified as Elizabeth Short, a 22-year-old aspiring actress from Massachusetts who had come to Los Angeles in search of fame and a better life. The press would soon dub her the Black Dahlia, inspired by her dark hair, striking looks, and the 1946 noir film The Blue Dahlia. A crime too perfectly executed. The brutality of the murder shocked even hardened investigators. Elizabeth's body had been cleanly bisected with surgical precision, her internal organs carefully arranged beneath her torso. Her face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating what police called a Glasgow smile. There wasn't a drop of blood at the scene, indicating she had been killed elsewhere, and her body meticulously washed before being placed in the vacant lot. For detectives, the clues were baffling. The cuts were precise, the crime almost clinical. One coroner believed the killer had medical training, or at least experience with dissection. Yet, despite the gruesome nature of the act, there was an eerie sense of control. No signs of chaos, no frenzy, no rush. The mystery of Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth's life in Los Angeles had been complicated. She drifted between hotels and apartments, often relying on the kindness of acquaintances and admirers. Friends described her as gentle but secretive. With an air of sadness she rarely explained. In the months before her death, she had been seen with numerous men, soldiers, businessmen, and Hollywood hopefuls. The press seized on this, twisting her story into something scandalous. Newspapers painted her as a femme fatale, turning a victim into a caricature. The headlines were lurid, feeding the city's hunger for tragedy and spectacle. But behind the sensationalism was a real young woman, poor, lonely, and chasing a dream that Los Angeles had promised but never delivered. The investigation that went nowhere. The LAPD threw everything they had at the case. Hundreds of officers followed thousands of leads. Over the next few years, more than 150 men were considered suspects, from doctors to actors to ex-boyfriends. One of the most notorious theories pointed to Dr. George Hodel, a wealthy physician, rumored to have a disturbing fascination with death and surrealism. His son, decades later, would even claim that Hodel was the killer, a theory that has gained traction among some investigators. But in 1947, without the forensic technology available today, the case grew colder with each passing month. The killer's identity vanished into the fog of rumor, false confessions, and sensational headlines. Legacy of a legend. The murder of Elizabeth Short became more than a crime. It became a myth. The Black Dahlia has since inspired countless books, films, and theories, becoming a symbol of Hollywood's dark underbelly. Behind the allure and glitz, her story reveals something deeper. The way dreams can curdle into nightmares under the city's bright lights. To this day, no one has ever been charged with her murder. Her case remains open, filed among Los Angeles' coldest of cold cases. 70 years later, people still whisper her name, not as a movie star, but as one of America's most haunting mysteries. If you made it this far, you're one of us now. The curious, the haunted, the ones who need to know. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe before the next mystery finds you.